All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can't hear me. That's good. Sorry about that. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties because I'm an old man and I'm the moron using a Mac, even though I'm a PC guy. So I have a Mac for work reasons. I won't bore you with those details, but welcome back. Episode 5. We're going to wrap up Hard Knocks. We're going to talk about Giants top 100, 60 to 51. We will get camp breakdown from Lucas and Andrew. Lucas on the offensive side, Drew on the defensive side. And then we will tell the tale of the greatest draft in Giants history, at least from our perspective, because we're extremely biased. All right, so let's get into Hard Knocks. I would love to hear some perspective from my brother, Stephen. So what did you pick up on it or find from the episode that was entertaining to you?
Well, one of the things that has come up since it was released was the fact that they actually showed the Giants' entire draft board, and I've pulled it up on my screen if you want to see it.
Well, you're going to stream. You're going to challenge my.
I'm going to try and share. I'm going to see
Okay.
if I've got
We,
the
we, we've already had
the
enough technical difficulties, but if you're going to make things worse, go right ahead. So,
I like the gamble. I like
all
the
right.
gamble.
boom. Who loves you, baby?
Well, I just
All
see.
right.
Oh, now I have to hit watch stream though.
Yep.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm seeing the
So
stream.
if obviously it's a relatively small picture, but if you zoom it up, you can see every name that they thought would go in the draft,
Right.
and a color coding system that I just found out that Lucas has found out what things mean, but ultimately it shows how we prioritize players and how we sometimes skip players that we wanted in hopes that we might get them in the next round, and other teams picked them up, two of which went to Detroit, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and apparently the Giants are kind of annoyed by it because it was supposed to have been removed. Like I'm sure you've seen in the background, a lot of images are fuzzy, but they forgot it with this, which is one of the more important, I guess, moments of the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us the color scheme there, my son.
All right. So from what the internet has deciphered, multiple people have said this is probably what it is. So blue, if the name is blue, it means like all around good leader, person, like someone you want to have on your team, like a blue chip prospect. Like if we get this guy, we'd be happy to have him. Red is medical concerns, which is shocking. It was what Penix didn't have any, and he's torn his ACL twice. So that's shocking to see that he did not.
I don't know about that one.
Purple is character concerns.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's flattering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gray was multiple positions, like they're versatile. Pink was undersize or measurement concerns.
I'm not sure pink was the right
Do you
choice
think
there. That
it's
sounds a little.
possible?
And then yellow is Joe Milton. No one's been able to figure that one out. People think it's like a position change, like he should play tight end, but he can also throw the ball 100 yards, which is
Or
kind of crazy.
yellow,
but
he's
yeah.
a bedwetter, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, whatever it is. But that's what people have figured out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
I'll
Yeah,
stop sharing.
my guess says about the Penix thing is that he wasn't someone that they were interested in, so they didn't waste time giving him a color.
That's
Right?
probably
Yeah.
that's probable.
They
Like
probably
interest
only,
plus.
yeah, they probably only colored guys that they really evaluated and thought they had within a range to get. That's my guess. I mean, they got so many scouts. Heck, there were 50 people in that room. They were doing the draft. So
Yeah.
anyway, but I thought it was interesting. The first 5 picks went pretty much locked in, but I thought it was cool how Shane waited just to see if anyone would call, and he got a couple, which was interesting. So I didn't know that. Were you guys aware that the Jets and the Colts had called?
No, that all came out.
Yeah.
And I was watching McAfee today actually, and they had Schefter on talking about how the Colts, because McAfee's a Colts guy, so they were talking about, hey, like, did you know about this? And he's like, I heard rumbling that happened. I'm glad they didn't do it. I think they would need to offer more, because then we wouldn't have had. There's no way we would have gotten Neighbors.
Yeah.
I am curious what the Jets offered. I would have loved to hear what it actually was.
Yeah.
Because that would have been
That
just
was
a flip,
only-
right?
That they were what 10?
I think it was a
They were
flip and
11?
more, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have only been probably
It probably
the
would
worth
have
it
been
situation.
it would probably have been like a 4th round pick
Who
or
did the
something like
Jets end
that.
up taking? I can't remember.
They took Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
But allegedly, they wanted Bowers,
Yeah.
and that's who they were coming up for.
Right. But all right. So who saw him? Neighbors goes into the crowd in Detroit and takes a selfie, and who's right behind him? Did you see him?
License plate.
License
Yeah.
plate guy. That guy is unbelievable.
Well, he's in the commercial now too.
Yeah.
They have him as because they did the rookie thing where they sit the rookies down, they show them the videotape, and then he was in there for Neighbors. So he's the solidified Giant super fan now. So
he is, and and again to tell the short story, we were at the Eagles game 2018, right? They're having their great season. It's the last game of the year. Lucas was with me, Lex, and was it Alex was our fourth, I think? Yeah, Alex was with us. And first of all, it was terrible because if you looked at the pictures, you thought we were in Philly because there was 90% green and the four of us, right? But license plate guy somehow ends up in our section in the first row. So we're fifth row. He's sitting in the first row, right behind the goalpost, and he's got this custom jersey that is an Eagles jersey on the back. He's wearing number 0, and it's 0 Super Bowls, which was funny at the time, but then broke the curse. So,
right.
And he actually ended up having to give that to the Eagles super fan for him to burn. So.
Yeah.
But now he has one that has I think it just has 1 on it. I think it goes like Super Bowls just 1. So he did get another jersey.
Yeah, but still, he's pushing the envelope. Let's just let it be low key here. Let's just be low key.
Let them know they're always little brother. It doesn't matter how many times they beat us in the regular season. None of that matters. Because the ultimate goal is the Super Bowl. If you don't do that, your season's kind of a waste. So it doesn't really matter.
That's right. Yeah, I tell you though, this whole thing about I get it because of the economics, but and I completely understand why the quality of the game, in my opinion, has declined. And it's because of the economics. You have to rely on inexperienced players to carry you. That's the whole goal. As soon as somebody gets good and talented, but not enough, they're not worth the money. You go get a Neighbors and you pray he's going to develop quickly. And if he does, great. And if he doesn't, oh well. And, combine that with how little they practice now. Like I heard Aaron Rodgers whining about that because he's been in the league long enough. He's like, this training camp's a joke to him now. It's ridiculous.
It's like, what's the point?
Yeah. But what'd you think about rounds 2 and 3? I thought there was some interesting stuff going on there.
Newman was a good pickup. I think he was the best safety in the draft. With McKinney going to the Packers, I thought that was a big void. But in the same instance, we had guys that were pretty good in the safety room already. So I think it's going to be a committee kind of deal at the end of the day. So knock on wood, hopefully, he steps in and contributes right away. And then I think third round was... Did we have third round or was it second and Phillips?
Third was Phillips.
Yeah. So we had Andrew Phillips, which I like that aspect of the episode showing how much due diligence they did in terms of at the senior, the Reese's, and then they, bringing them into, to MetLife and sitting down with them and whatnot. So I feel like they filled a lot of needs in the draft. I feel like it was a good draft in that aspect. They just weren't picking best available at that point. They were filling needs. So
yeah, he gave a great answer to Dable's question too. What's your best trait? He just said my toughness. So I thought it was a good straight look him in the eye, and Dable loves that stuff. So, and I did love the Seinfeld humor. Hello, Newman. Go ahead, Steve. You had something?
I was gonna say that even prior to when he sat down, they asked him the question. They said he's a dog. He will do what you ask him to do and play hard every down. And so when his answer mirrored that, it showed they were on the same page, which I liked.
Yeah. And I do love the reminders, too, about, like, I totally forgot Tuck was a mid-round, Bavaro was a mid-round, Kerry Carson was a mid-round. I mean, it just shows you what values in there. In fact, I love this story that Wellington Mara was the one behind Pick and Tuck. Like, hey, he's the highest one on the board. Pick that guy.
Pick that guy, yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard his recruiting story in Notre Dame. This is a wild story. So he's in high school in Alabama, right? And the Notre Dame guy gets sent to go to a game to watch a player, and he goes to the wrong game. So he wasn't even supposed to see Tuck. And Tuck just goes off. And next thing you know, he's going to Notre Dame. So
that's awful.
It's funny how things can work out, right? So yeah, he was He-Man. What do you think about Tiki's appearance in the draft?
I mean,
he's so 50-50 with the Giants. Sometimes he's like really, all about Big Blue, and then next minute he's talking bad. So you never know how he's hot and cold. So it was interesting to see.
he's working his way back. I mean, I don't know if he's ever done any full mea culpa on some of this stuff, but they're trying. He's certainly statistically deserving. I mean, and he was so much fun to watch in those last few seasons. So I don't ever remember watching a running back like him. And we'll talk more about him when he shows up on the list because he's going to. But I was blown away by how old Tyrone Tracy is. I mean, he's 24.
Yeah, old and he wasn't even a running back for most of his college career. So
there's part of it I like.
I think that worked in his favor because he's 24 and he's older, so he's got a lot more experience, but not necessarily the damage.
Yeah, well, and the maturity. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Less mileage.
He was an analytics pick. It was like, this guy goes off.
Explosion plays and whatnot. He was tops in the NCAA, so made sense.
Now, I missed the opportunity to reach out to my man, Bo Perbula, quarterback of Penn State, to ask about Big Theo Johnson, but that guy is enormous. He is enormous.
Well, they got to pump the brakes. They're saying Dayball, because Dayball spent some time in New England, and he's already pumping them up to be the next Gronk. So hopefully, let's get to some games
big
first.
Shoes. Big shoes.
But very same measurables, and they're saying he moves the same way, so we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you said, big shoes. Let's let him ease in and see what happens. But it's nice to have a guy with that kind of potential. And, what's funny is watching that show, I want this to be an 07 draft, right? I mean, that's what we need. We need a draft that's going to have all these guys contributing like we had that year. And that one worked out pretty good. So, but I think that every year, and then all of a sudden things change. So
you could have the 2021 draft where now we only have one guy already, and it's been 3 years later. So
that's right. So
great.
I'm gonna go to my our fashion consultant on this conversation. Lucas, your thoughts on the 100-year uniform?
I hated it when I first saw it, but I saw some of the pictures of guys actually in it, and it looks better on them than it does a mannequin. So I'm not going to hate it if I see it in person.
I saw it in person, and I got a different respect for it. The only thing that throws it off is the older colored pant, because it's just very random, brownish, tannish. But the jerseys, it's just nice to have, and then to have the wing helmet is like the most historic helmet for any college, NFL. I wore it at some point in high school. It's just that kind of – the wing helmet is just like that kind of nostalgic, helmet for a lot of teams and organizations. So I feel like it's cool that they're incorporating that, in the 100 years.
They all just look like Michigan, though, now. So.
Yeah, Michigan, Delaware. There's so many different ones that you can go down the rabbit hole of worn the wings. So
all right, let's all put a bow on Hard Knocks. All right, my perspective overall, I thought that I've known enough to know the Giants have been ducking this as long as possible, and so I guess if they had to do it, this is kind of a way to ease into it. I like the more stories of the people, more of the people. This was pretty much the Joe Shane show.
Yeah.
I came to he kind of started to win me back over toward the end. I liked how he ran the draft room. I think he's a strong leader, but I mean, overall, I don't know if it was as entertaining as some of the others, but I don't know. Give me your take. I'll go to Drew.
I just think I can agree, because when you watch the normal Hard Knocks, a lot of those stories are turned to the guys fighting for the roster. Yeah. It's the star players. You're seeing what they're going through, the changes, if it's a new team for them, the coach's point of view on certain things. You kind of see the progression of some of the guys through the preseason games. So, I would say it was cool from the aspect that it was something different, and you got to see the back office stuff going on and the understanding of free agency and the picks and whatnot. But I'm with you where it's I like to see the player stories and development and stuff like that. So if the Giants eventually did end up, somehow ended up in like the mid-season format or during the season or the actual training camp, it'd be cool. But I guess to get the feet wet, I was okay with it, I guess.
Yeah. Anybody have Steve or Lucas? What did you take from it?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
I was gonna say I agree. It wasn't as riveting as or engaging as it was when you deal with the players, especially because a lot of them, this is their only moment that you'll ever know anything about them. So it's got a very different vibe to it. But overall, I mean, it was interesting to see how those things work and the dynamic. I mean, it ended up being a lot more casual conversations in the war rooms than I expected. I expected a little bit more regimented. All right, what is this guy? It was kind of cool to see. Well, I talked to this guy, and he's actually pretty funny, or whatever. Whatever vibe they got off of people was a little bit more real than I expected. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. How about you, Lucas? Anything more to add?
We definitely draft for need and not just like the best player available. Like we wanted a cornerback. We wanted one of the top
Right.
two cornerbacks that was left out there, and they both went.
Yeah.
Like it would have been like an interesting scenario. It's like, all right, if we didn't trade for Brian Burns, would we have signed one of the other guys,
Right.
like Robert Hunt, or tried to throw money at Christian Wilkins,
Right.
and then have gotten one of the corners and Newbin because we could have double dipped. So it's like you get Burns at that pick basically. So it's going to be interesting how it pans out, right? Like if Burns works out, I think it's the higher ceiling.
So if the season goes in the crapper and they're looking to fire Shane, I'm going to send my man Mara that last 20-second clip of you and see if you just figured it out. I think they should listen to you. This is
my resume.
I'm
is
a
this
little
me
biased.
my hat in the ring for the Giants
I'm
GM
a little
job?
biased. One thing that was funny to me though too was, did you pick up on, I don't want to call it nepotism, but the family member of the Scouts? Did you pick up on it?
It's the director of personnel is
McConnell.
Mara's nephew. Yeah.
McConnell is in the
Yeah.
Mara tree. If you look at him and you listen to him,
Yeah, you can
He's
definitely
sounds-
tell from.
I saw the
yeah.
look, but I didn't know his name. Yeah.
It's his
Yeah.
nephew,
Yeah.
and he started 11 years ago. And we've been bad for the last 11 years. That's so weird how that works out.
Now, you might lose that GM job if you.
Yeah, you
We'll send
gotta-
him that. We'll send him that clip.
I gotta say.
So,
So I'm
all right, we've now
on
put
it.
a bow on Hard Knocks. We'll see what happens. We got plenty to talk about in coming weeks about camp. Let's move to top 100, 60 to 51. I'm going to go with Steve first. You said you had some thoughts, so let's hear what you got.
Well, first of all, I love that once again, it seems like in every 10 there's some form of kicker, which is just fantastic to me. Here you got Dave Jennings.
He should be the highest one, though. I don't think there'll be any more. Well, it could be Pat Summerall.
Ali Haji Shank. A lot of the old guys, I can't really talk to. I didn't see them. Their credentials look fine to me. I've got no opinion. The one that I don't want to say bothers me per se because I love the guy and what he did the one season he did it. But Otis Anderson at 51 to me is wrong. It's just wrong. He had 700 carries total for the Giants in his career, and 340 of them were in one season. Mm-hmm. And he averaged less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
That doesn't make him a top 51. And even in the Super Bowl, he had 102 yards. He won an MVP, and he deserved it. But it wasn't Thurman Thomas in that game, as far as performance, blew him away.
Sure.
It's just they lost. Yeah. So I love Otis Anderson. I thought he was great. I loved his attitude, bringing the old guy back who had one, big moment in his career that he earned, especially when he was dying on the Cardinals for so many years. But a 51 out of 100 in a team that's been around for 100 years, it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, and I don't know, but there's some great Otis stories. I met him one of our sideline pass games, so we'll tell sideline pass stories another time how those came to be. Really nice guy, but there's a great story he tells when he first came to the Giants. He didn't tell it in this. He told that phenomenal William Roberts Jumbo Elliott story that just cracked me up, where they told him to bounce it outside and he loses 4 yards. And Parcells is like, "What are you doing?" Well, Jumbo said, "Jumbo, next time you listen to a rookie," he's like, it's a brilliant, brilliant story. I just love it. Otis sold him out too. He wasn't quiet. He was,
he didn't care.
Jumbo said, but he told a story because Lucas and Drew, you got to know, this guy was the man on a crap team for like 6 years. He was 1,500, 1,700, and they had nothing. Like, he was amazing. Yep. So much so, he gets on the team, and Mark Ingram, the senior Mark Ingram, so of course, you know his son more. He's a younger player. And, he's going by Otis in the Giants locker room, but he was OJ. And so Ingram's sitting next to him, and he goes, Otis Anderson, there was this running back when I was growing up. He was the baddest man, OJ Anderson. Every time I played, I wanted to be him. Whatever happened to him? He looks at him, he goes, Ingy, you talking to him? He's like, no, man, you Otis Anderson. So, no, man, that's me. So it's a great, too funny a story. But, what's funny about him and Haas, and this is another thing that will never happen again, at least not in the system we have. Think how long both of them waited for their chance. You would never hold on to an Otis Anderson for 4 years now. He cost you too much money. And Haas was 7 years as a backup. But those two guys were as a big a reason they won that Super Bowl as anybody. So, more balloons.
Balloon.
We're celebrating the Super Bowl.
How does that happen every time?
I don't know. When I do that, I don't know. Anyway.
You gotta get a new.
Anyway, love OJ stories. Collins, he was just a great defensive back player. It helps when you're playing behind those linebackers, right? And that D-line, but so what? He was very solid. I completely forgot Tom Landry was a defensive back for us.
Defensive coordinator at the same time.
Yeah, I knew he was.
They made that clear.
Yeah, he was D coordinator and Lombardi was O coordinator. You do know that, right? Our team had those two guys.
We had arguably the greatest coaches of all time all come through. We have Belichick, we have Landry, we have Lombardi,
Parcells.
Parcells. It's not a bad place to have a job.
Well, and Lombardi was supposed to come back. They tried to get him from the Packers. He was only supposed to go there for like a year or something and come back, and he decided to stay. So too bad. But anyway, Deal though, he is another mid-round pick, just solid. In fact, I thought it was great that him and Jumbo, because to me they're the same player from different eras, ginormous left tackles, right? So, so I thought that was good symmetry in the list. But then there's Victor, so we got to talk about Victor,
the salsa man, salsa man.
Yeah. So, Lucas, when's the first time we saw him in person?
The first time we saw him at the Redskins game, and he dropped his opening day.
Were we at that game?
Yeah, and he dropped the third down early in the game and got benched.
Oh, you're right. Okay, well, let's go to the second time after the salsa started.
Yeah,
that was against Richard Sherman in Seattle.
Yeah, when he caught the one off Richard Sherman's helmet and took it for 60 yards. That's always on every one of his highlight clips over there for that one. And I do think he's too high on the list because ultimately he really had 2.5 good seasons.
Yeah.
Now, his one really good season resulted in the Super Bowl, and he set the single season receiving record for yardage. So it helps when you have 99 yards in one play. That does boost your numbers a little bit. But love Victor, all-time guy. I wish he stayed healthy. It would have been fun with him and Odell at the height of their powers together. That would have been a good one.
Yeah, he's probably the most electrifying player to come out of nowhere in my lifetime. Like undrafted, kid from Patterson. O.J. Anderson watched him play Pee Wee. How funny was that?
Yeah, that's how you were saying that. Yep, he was saying that his buddy had coached him. Yep.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool. Yeah, and I was even at that Miami game. What's funny about that Miami game, if you look at the clip, you'll see snow. But do you know when that game was? It was October 31st.
Yeah, Halloween.
3 days before Halloween, we got 7 inches of snow. It was terrible. But yeah, I liked what Colin said about it. When opportunity comes, it's all about what you do with it. And that's how Victor took care of business. So now it's making me wonder, how much higher is OBJ going to be? So how much higher? In
my mind, does OBJ even deserve to be higher than Saquon?
Does he deserve
no,
higher than
he
Saquon?
does.
I think so. Yeah. Impact wise, the people, anyone outside of like Giants fandom, they think the catch is really all Odell is. But for us watching him on a weekly basis when he was at his peak, he was the go-to option.
The best 3 year stretch of any receiver ever.
It was 3 years though.
Yeah.
He had 1,000 yards every year, except for the year he broke his leg.
In the NFL life, though, you got to take that in consideration when the average is only like 3 or 4 years too. I think that's part of what happens in this, right? Meteors get more credibility here, but I happen to, and again, we can get more into him when it happens, but I was lucky enough to be at that Ravens game where he went just totally off in the fourth quarter, and it was It was electrifying. So yeah, see nothing like it. One of the memories that came up for me, and probably you too, Steve, was Bob Shepard. So the announcer. So you guys know who
Oh
Bob
yeah.
Shepard is?
Mm-hmm.
So,
The
but
Yankees announcer.
he used to, yeah. Well, and Jeter kept him going on forever because Jeter would play his recorded voice after he
Yep.
passed, right?
Yeah, I remember that
Not
one.
much
That's
who.
the yeah.
But he
Yeah,
used to,
Jeter.
they used to actually kind of give a little bit of what happened in the play because we didn't have replay as much. So he would say stuff like, Dorset for 4 yards, spilled by Taylor. Like it was spilled. Like he had all these adjectives. So
Yeah.
it was just too funny. You remember that, Steve?
Oh yeah, like 5 yards by Baba.
Baba. That's right, Baba. Yeah, it was good stuff. No, I love when they talk about the old stadium. To give Jennings a little bit of upward stuff, I thought it was fascinating that he's the guy behind the net punting stat. You know, isn't that
Makes sense. Makes
I don't know
sense.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Makes
thought
sense.
that was.
They weren't keeping that stat for a really long time.
Yep, yep. Love the good talk about Wellington, right? Just shaking everybody's hand, knowing every player's name. It just shows what a family business that it is. So, great stuff. And John's doing the best he can to keep that going. So, I appreciate
It
it.
was, speaking of the family though, Darren Waller was on some podcast talking about Tom Giants. He's like, they're an awesome organization. He's like, they pay for things that no one else does. Like they go out of
Yeah.
their way. Like everyone knows you. So it's like,
Yeah.
not the organization. Just might be some meddling. It might be a little too hands on. But I'll save my GM interview for
That's
when
right. That's
Mr.
right.
Mayor calls. Yeah,
Well,
I'll save that.
You can tell him 60 years. You so you're Mr. Mayor. I'm family too. It's 60 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Second.
You can even
I've
tell
been
him.
helping paying these salaries for 60 years.
You can tell him you married into a Pittsburgh family just like one of his siblings did. So there's
There you go.
it's a whole connection going on. So,
I'll walk over to Art Rooney's house right now and let him know.
and I did think it was pretty cool to hear that when Bob Papa was doing Fordham basketball games, Wellington Mara, like he met him then, right before he ever became Giants announcer. It's just so funny when you hear the stories about where people's paths cross at some point. So and then cross again. Anything else on 60 to 51?
I didn't really have any surprises there.
Yeah.
I thought it was respectable.
All right. Well, let's talk a little training camps there. So give me your thoughts on the D. We'll go D first, Drew.
So I know a lot of the highlight clips a lot of people are seeing are deep balls from the offense and some of the D-backs getting cooked, but from a lot of the reporters and people that have been there, it's been kind of, a win for the offense kind of day, a win for the defense kind of day. So it looks like they're going back and forth, and the defense is putting up a fight, and it looks like, KT and Burns and Dexter are causing fits as we thought. It's a lot of plays look like sacks. Obviously they can't hit any of the quarterbacks, but it looks like they're stopping a lot of plays early. The back half, the DBs look like the draft picks are looking good. They're afraid Newbin has a little nagging injury already, but I'm not too concerned because it's camp and everybody kind of gets those little nicks and dings in camp. It's just a part of football and getting back in the swing of things. But it sounds like there's a lot of competition at a lot of positions, which I like to hear that because I like a lot of bullets in the chamber. One guy goes down, the next man up kind of thing. So I feel like we're going to be young on the back end, but I think it's going to be an upside to it. So I'm anxious to see how it all pans out. New defensive scheme. So be interesting to see.
What do you think about our lovely coordinator? He's pretty low key. At least he wasn't Hard Knocks.
Yeah, he seems very down to earth and whatnot, and they're definitely already saying that run stop is an emphasis, and they showed that even in Hard Knocks that's kind of his sweet spot when it comes to the defense. They're good at stopping the run usually, so I'm hoping that's the case. When you got a D line like you have and the linebackers that you have, I hope nothing gets to the secondary at that point. So
yeah,
be
Are
interesting.
they running a 3-4 or 4-3?
I want to say
I think it's a 3-4. Or
Yeah, it's a
3-4.
Yeah, it's a 3-4.
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no,
That's
you're
right.
good. And they said a lot of cover two looks, things of that nature. So it'll be interesting to see. Also, the other interesting note is how they're utilizing Isaiah Simmons. He's been a lot with the corners, so it looks like he's going to be on the back end a lot more now.
Okay.
They said when he was in Arizona, that's where he made, most of his big plays was on the back end. So I'll be curious to see if they have him at nickel or moving him around in the slot, things of that nature. So,
Right.
I mean, we saw a couple instances last year. He had that pick six against Washington. That kind of came out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
he's definitely got the ball skills and the coverage ability. So I'm glad that they brought him back. I think he has a bunch of upside. So be curious to see how that pans out.
He's still got plenty to prove. So what about the offense? Lots of good deep balls. I like that.
Yeah, but what was it? Tuesday, Jones had one of the worst. He looked like terrible. Now, they also didn't, they gave Neighbors like a day off kind of thing. Like he only was in for a few plays, and I think that kind of, when your best player is not out there to throw to, it's a lot harder. But Neighbors looks like the real deal. That guy, he's going to be a problem. As long as he doesn't get hurt or anything like that, and Jones a little more time, they should be good. And then we signed our new guard. I think the Evan Neal experiment might be cooked. I think they signed Van Roten, who was the Raiders' right guard, who played next to Illuminor last year. Okay. So he basically just took two of the Raiders stars and put them on our line, got Runyon in his natural spot of left guard. JMS has some shoulder injury at center, but he should be back shortly, apparently. And Andrew Thomas is the anchor of the line. So
and
hopefully
are they looking okay? Is the line giving him time at least?
Yeah, well, it can't be worse than last year where we gave the second most sacks of all time in the season. So it can't get worse, right?
Yeah.
Right.
How do the running backs look?
No one's really. That's one of the highlights. Tracy had a nice run today where he took a shotgun handoff and he would have gone the entire distance. So he looks kind of nice. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities than Singletary as the season goes on. Like we'll start with Singletary. He's a solid running back. He's not going to do anything amazing, but he'll churn out yards, and then Tracy will be in there on passing downs probably, and go from there.
Cool. All right. I like the camp breakdown. Let's keep that going. Drew, when are you going again?
I'm going on Sunday, so I'll have hopefully some clips to pass along and some news from there. So,
and we're investing in the show, right? We're sending people to camp. So don't forget to submit your receipts.
All expense paid trip.
We got to send them to Detroit for those joint practices too. Got to get them in there.
Yeah, and I'll put a pitch too. Our tickets for the preseason game haven't sold yet, so anybody out there wants them, come talk to me. They're online. I mean,
Easter egg in the watch. You got to watch to know
that. There's a code,
make it to the point
QR code for a 25% off. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Did you see the birthday balloons in this episode? Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there you go. That's if you've seen them. If you can say the exact time stamp.
At what minute did the birthday balloons show up? Yes. What color were the birthday balloons? Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the most important draft in Giants history. All right. So. In 2020, right, COVID hits. And there's a lot more to the front end of this story, but I'll just say this, and we'll tell the rest of the relationship with the Giants that started with a letter that I sent to John Mara at our 50th year. But through that, developed a relationship with a guy within the Giants. I won't say his name because I didn't ask him if I could start talking about him, so I'm going to respect that for now. But developed a relationship over the years. We were getting field passes. And then COVID hits. We're a few weeks from the draft, and the NFL's panicking, trying to figure out how they're going to keep the fans involved. I wasn't even paying attention to that, but I get this. I think it was an email from this guy, and it was, hey, the NFL is trying to figure out a way to keep the fans connected in the draft. Would you be interested in participating? Yes. So what does it entail? So he says, great, I'll pass you to our ESPN contact and they'll let you know what's going on. So for those of you who maybe don't remember, on that draft, there was a box, almost Brady Bunch style, of 15 fans for each team. And so they asked me, do you want to be one of those boxes? I'm like, yeah, sure. So this was like on the week before the draft. So Tuesday before the first round draft, and they were going to do it on the first, second, and third round. We had this rehearsal. They got to work out all the IT. I get a special login to they were using Microsoft Teams, the Giants Teams site. Okay, great. I log in, and most of it's technical. They really weren't. They're just kind of telling us about it, but it was more about making sure they had all the tech worked out. And I noticed there's only like 6 of the 15 fans. So I start texting my little ESPN friend, hey, you got some no-shows here. I got some reliable people. You know, I got people that will do this. So she's like, give me their email addresses. So I give them Andrew and Lucas's email address, and you guys got the invite, and then you were in. And so, yeah, when we finally got to draft night on the first round, and I'm going to try to show the video. I don't know that it's going to work. I don't think it will, because I'm now boxing up this app, but I'll describe it for you. So we're in the 15 box. Goodell's doing the first pick, who turned out to be Andrew Thomas. And he's standing where, like, Andrew's on the first row of 3. He's up in this corner, and Goodell's covering like half his freaking face, right?
with his rear end, mind you, because I was on the bottom of the boxes. Like, he had his little chair set up.
Like, if Andrew could see, he'd be looking at Goodell's ass, basically, is the way it was. Lucas is in the top corner with his roommate Mike, because you were living in down by the baseball stadium at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Drew, you were in your in-laws' basement, right?
Yeah, I was in the apartment. We all had to like decorate and stuff. I had like jerseys hanging from the ceiling with clothes hangers and whatnot. It was definitely a makeshift operation.
Yep. And I was wearing the family 60 jersey, and again, that's a story we'll tell before the season starts. And I'm actually in a pretty good spot, so you could see me pretty obviously in it, and we're all hyped and acting like morons when they pick him. What was funny about it was, we were getting this about 30 seconds before it was actually on air. So, you know, we were hearing everybody's pick. So I was texting friends, like the Steelers, hey, you guys just picked this person here. Because we were actually ahead of the feed. We were live, right, with their feed. So that was cool. Another funny part of the story a lot of people don't know is, maybe an hour before the draft, the ESPN woman's pinging me. And she's like, Roger said he'd like to talk to one of the fans. Would you be interested in talking to Roger? And I'm like, I'm not a big fan. I think he's a bit of a jerk, but okay, I could do it. And because of the delays and everything, they couldn't figure out the tech. I kept the text to prove that this did happen, that she did make the offer, but that would have blown the whole lid off this thing. Yeah. So the next night is the second and the third round, and I decided to change. I went with the Saquon jersey. And I decided to have the Marchesani jersey in my hand. And now Lucas had to bail on us. It was Friday. I'm sure he was going out with Lex or something, had some other obligation. But it was me and Drew sticking it out. And we were still relatively early on the next night for the second round, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And this time I took the Marchesani and I'm showing it, right? Well, sure enough, my cousin Tom gets this random outreach from kid from high school that says, I swear I just saw your last name on the NFL draft. So that paid off. That was kind of funny. We get to the final round. It is close to midnight. I mean, it's dragging, because when you're not picking, it's forever. You're just waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, it is like, it's all that they say about the showbiz life. It is boring as all get out 95% of the time. So they finally get to it. And even Goodell is now sitting in his easy chair, feet up, and the screen is now to this side of him. And sure enough, they put right at the bottom left, Andrew and me. So he says the pick, and they zoom in, and at one point, it's just the 3 of us. Me, Drew, and Roger, as the pick comes through, at midnight with 5 people watching.
To add, to make that funnier, I'm not a late night person. I'm like, old man style. I'm in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I happened to leave because they were doing switching over each team to the squares every time. Yep. So you could see the rest of the teams. That's right. I left it up, and I'm like, look, I'm going to sit here. I end up dozing off. I'm asleep. I'm dead asleep. And all I hear I'm a light sleeper, so luckily I hear Giants are on the clock. I'm wiping drool. I'm like trying to get up. I'm like, all right. I get in my little setup, and then that was the 3rd round pick, like late midnight. I'm like wiping drool on my face. I just woke up. I'm like hearing Giants are on the clock.
Yeah.
And got in there. So it was worth it though.
because of my lame Mac sharing, I won't show them, but I'll post them on the team channel. So you'll see the two videos. I'll post the first round and the third round because those are the two we're seeing. And you'll tell. See, it explains a lot because you're wearing like a knit cap, and this is you in that third round pick. It's kind of like this. Right?
Yeah, I had just
doing a golf clap.
woke up. I'm wiping drool off my face.
Doing this
I'm like,
golf clap. Like I'm like got the jersey still, and I'm like, you know,
Drew's like,
doing this stuff, and Drew's like, oh hey, who do we pick? Well, and the funny is, we picked some offensive guard that I don't even know if he's in the league anymore, and this was just 2020. It was Matt Pert, I think was his name, or Pert.
oh yeah, we just see. He's. I don't think he's on the team anymore.
yeah, he's not even on the team anymore. But yeah, it was definitely like you couldn't even. You had to get excited regardless of who the pick was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you couldn't boo or anything. It was like, yeah, just clap it up. Like,
Well, the two other things that they asked us to do that were kind of staged was there was one where they had just done the salute to service thing again because COVID was going on and they were promoting all the people doing stuff, and so they told us they were going to be coming out of that and that we should be politely clapping. So there's one time where before they do our pick, we're all sitting there like, yes, nice job, service people. Like we're doing this golf clap. And the other was they wanted us to boo Goodell because every time, you know, before a pick, because that's just tradition. So we did boo Roger. That was the other thing they asked us to do. So, but just, you know, Hollywood, it's all staged. But that's the greatest draft in Giants history. I don't care what people tell you. So you need to know that. So.
Well, we at least drafted a good players.
We did.
That's the important part.
Yep.
We drafted arguably our best player on the current roster.
Yeah, and a guy that maybe, if he stays healthy, he may be a Ring of Honor guy. I mean, he's certainly talented enough to get there.
He's gonna be a Giant through 2029. So yeah, he'll be around here for a while.
Yep. All right. Anybody with parting thoughts as we start to close out here?
we got a Hall of Fame game tonight. Football's here. I mean, time's flying. So be Giants preseason games in no time. So.
Yep, next week. Well, we'll obviously break that down. I mean, that game's on Thursday, I think, isn't it? Yeah, we're the 8th.
I can look real quick.
I think it's Thursday. So, I don't know. We could talk about it offline, guys, but maybe we should do the show after the first preseason game and wait to watch it and break it down. Because if we wait a whole other week, we'll be irrelevant.
It is Thursday at 7. You don't want to do a live stream watch along?
Watch it while we're watching it.
All we got to watch is like the first 10 plays because, you know.
Yeah, watch maybe a defensive and offensive drive.
No one's going to play. They're not going to play anybody. The second game might be. And it's a Saturday. It's a Saturday at 1. Oh, never mind.
We'll decide if we think we need to, what we'll do with the first game. So, all right. Love you guys. It's good to see you. And we'll bring it home again next week. Peace out.